Hey guys, it's Styles, and welcome to another Reddit video for r/entitledparents. Alright, hit that subscribe button, and let's get on with the story. The title of today's video: The entitled kid and my mom used to get along well. Well, as good as two sisters usually get along. But when the entitled aunt had a kid, almost all contact was dropped between them, and now she only calls my mom to ask for a small loan of $1 million, or other favors like her driving down to look after her entitled kid for a day. She lives over 4 hours away. But you can't stay the night as I don't have room, and gets offended when my mom declines. Anyways, so as sort of an olive branch, my mom got quite ill a few months prior, and she had one of those moments where she didn't want any regrets when she died. My mom invited my entitled aunt and her entitled kid around for a few nights so they can catch up and whatnot. So I'm waiting at the door. The car pulls up out front and I open the door when she rings the bell. Me opens door. Hey, Aunt March. Hold this. She shoves a bag in my face, which I take. I kind of write this off since it was a 4-hour journey with a most likely screaming child. My mom and the entitled aunt proceed to exchange pleasantries, but I notice my mom is doing basically all the necessities. How was your journey? Etc. Not really important to the story. I just like to show that she's not really a nice lady. Anyways, so a few minutes go by. I make some tea and a hot chocolate for the entitled kid. He didn't ask for it. I was just being nice. It's cold. It's steaming at the top, so I know he's lying. Me laughs awkwardly and sits down. Entitled kid blinks at me. It's still cold. At this point, I realize he's not joking. I can see the steam. It's not cold. Oh, he just watched Ratatouille. For those of you who don't know, Ratatouille is an animated film about that chef rat, and it's trying to be like some name of the character from the film. Be a dear, remake one for him. Side note, from what I remember, his character never says the food's cold, but I could be wrong. I kind of sit still for a bit, not sure if she's serious. Entitled aunt, now please, laughs at the entitled kid who gleefully holds up his cup. Now it should be noted at this point that my mom let it happen since she was desperate to get on with her sister. But that will change later, don't worry. Me, knowing my mom wants me to work it out. Sure, whatever. I go to the kitchen and set down the mug out of view, rattle it around with some spoons and jugs, and bring the same hot chocolate back. The kid is fine with it, but the entitled aunt? Oh no. You didn't remake that. I just saw you put it on the side and then bring it back out. Entitled kid stops drinking. Mommy, I want a hot one. The entitled aunt, don't worry, honey. I'll get you a hot one. At this point, I was just annoyed. The kid was fine with it, but the entitled aunt was just being a pain in the butt. Me, well, the microwave is in there, and I motion towards the kitchen, so knock yourself out. So I don't cause a scene, I leave the room and go upstairs to my room. Now recently I've started playing a new game on my PC called BioShock 2. For those of you who don't know, it's a horror game that takes place underwater. Now a key point to both this story and the game is that the game there are little girls who run around called Little Sisters, and their job is to collect resources from dead bodies around the various game levels. Each one is protected by a huge man in a diving suit known as Big Daddies, which are usually referred to by the Little Sisters as Daddy or Mr. Bubbles, for whatever reason. I don't know. And in the second game, you play as one of these Big Daddies and have to defend these little girls whilst they harvest the resources. If you played the game or are super intelligent, you probably know where this is going. Anyway, so I boot up the game and begin playing. A few minutes pass and I assume the entitled kid gets bored because I hear him scampering upstairs and, without knocking, enters my room. Me, knowing the game is quite gruesome and I shouldn't play it in front of him, pauses the game. Hey, could you please knock next time? Entitled kid, I don't have to knock at home. You're not at home. Ignoring me. What are you playing? An adult game. But you're not an adult. Haha, you got me. I don't like him much, but I get that he's a kid, and although he's very annoying, I do recognize that I've got to bear with him a little bit, since he's only 5 or 6 and doesn't really know any better than to be annoying or squeaky. Can you play some, please? Not with you here, mate. As I said, it's an adult game. He storms out, slamming my door behind him. I was a bit confused since I, though annoyed, understood why he wasn't allowed to play certain games as I was his age. A few moments pass, and this is where it gets a tad unbelievable, so fair enough, if you want to call BS, go ahead. In the game, I set the little sister down, and she begins harvesting the body, and several enemies attack, attempting to get the little sister. Just as I hear footsteps coming up the door, I have a little eye roll as I know exactly what's about to happen. It's the entitled aunt. She stands outside my door for a few seconds, I assume thinking of something to say, but I give it no thought. Just as she's about to walk in, without knocking I might add, the little sister in the game gets attacked and lets out a high-pitched, "Daddy!" asking me, her guardian, for help. Now at the time I didn't really think much of it since I know full well what I'm doing. Whereas the entitled aunt knows all at this point and thinks that I'm a 16-year-old boy. She knows full well what a 16-year-old boy are motivated by. Banging on the door. "What the F is wrong with you?" Me. "Huh?" The entitled aunt barges in the room, which if she thought I was really doing what she thought I was doing, that's actually kind of creepy. "What the F did you show my angel?" I paused the game. "Oh, he asked to see the game and I said no since it's rated 18+. "Don't lie to me, you little kid. He just came downstairs crying because you played an adult thing in front of him." "What?" "Entitled aunt, this is a game." "I just heard a woman moaning in there. Don't lie to me." "What you heard was a character in the game. If you sit down, I'll show you." At this point, the entitled kid is at the door and wanders in. Points at the screen. "That's it! I'll play some of it for you to prove that it's not what you think it is if you just sit down," as I gesture to the bed. I like to point out that I wasn't being aggressive at all during this. She was screaming at me, and I was just talking normally. Both of them take a seat on my bed. You might want to tell the entitled kid to leave. It's a grown-up game. My entitled aunt is still pretty angry. "If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for him." Realizing that actually didn't make much sense, I play the game anyway. Big mistake. Now, I understand that I wasn't very smart in this situation and didn't really think this through. I then proceeded to show her and the little brat about 2 minutes of me blowing enemies' heads off with the shotgun and a huge drill. I did mention it before that this game was pretty gruesome. I paused and turned around and realized my mistake. The entitled aunt was mortified. However, the entitled kid looked fine. "What kind of sick stuff is that?" I was surprised. Surely she couldn't be that dumb. I was expecting her to flip out because it showed it in front of her kid. But no, she still thought that it was some kind of kink I had. Because why wouldn't you? Eye roll. "Entitled aunt, it's clearly not what you think it is. I'm telling your mother right now, and we're taking your Xbox right now as compensation." I decided not to point out that it was actually a PC, not an Xbox. My entitled aunt points to my monitor and holds out her hand like she expects me to be able to carry that, and I just give it over. "What? No way! I want it, Mommy!" "You can have it, sweetie." "Now give it now!" The entitled aunt tries to grab the monitor, and I just smack her arm away. "Did you just hit my child, you fat slob? Get off now!" My entitled aunt storms downstairs, dragging the entitled kid by the wrist, and I hear her yelling to my mom downstairs, calling her names and whatnot for not letting me have the computer for that filth. I hear a thud, and I rush downstairs, worried. Luckily, it was only her entitled kid having a tantrum on the floor. I'm watching from the staircase, and the entitled aunt hasn't noticed me yet. "What kind of crappy parenting are you doing? I demand to have his Xbox, and we're sleeping in his room tonight." "Look, everyone, please just calm down." My aunt slaps my mom. Now this is where I lose my cool. I'm 6'1" and taller than my aunt by about a foot. I'm also not particularly muscular, but I am quite big, and when wearing the correct clothes, can look like I am. I emerge from the staircase. "Out! Now!" The entitled aunt ignores me. "And you, listen here, but out! Now!" "What?" "Get out of my house now, and if you come back, I'll call the police." At this point, I'm about 2 feet away from her, and she realizes exactly how tall I am and supposedly muscular I am. It's also worth noting that I would have never touched her or her son in any violent way, but she didn't know that. You can't do that! I can. You and your little doo-doo stain that you call a son are gonna get out of my house right now, or I'll make you. But we're family! I was shocked by this. Like, how can she even consider making that excuse when my mom was currently crying with a big red mark on her cheek? Get out now. The entitled aunt, realizing she's been beat, begins grabbing her things and tells the entitled kid to get his shoes on so she can tie them. Nope. Out, as I point to the door. Yes, I'm getting his shoes on, you jerk. Put them on in the car. Now get out. My entitled aunt moves towards the door, and I open it for her. She's grabbing the entitled kid's wrist and is practically dragging him along whilst he wails that he wants my game. I throw a bag that she forgot onto the ground and slam the door behind me. I immediately check on my mom, who's sobbing and quietly clutching her face. She was fine, and I think it was mostly the shock, but she was understandably devastated. She spoke to me later that night and gave me a huge hug, thanking me. Needless to say, we didn't hear from that entitled aunt for several months until she apologized a few weeks ago and proceeded to ask for money. My mom blocked her. Since everyone was asking, I'll just put it here. My mom's fine now. She was diagnosed with cancer and went through chemo, so she wasn't herself for a while. Normally, she'd have hit her back, but she was mostly upset, not because the visit was a failure, but more because of what the visit represented. She's fine now. Wow, now that was a crazy story. I don't know what I would have done in that situation, but surely I would have been pissed off if my mom had gotten slapped. Well, alright guys, that's it for today's story. If you enjoyed this, hit a like, and if you want to see more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.